Richo, you come on this show and you often say, look, people like Albo, and I always point out that no one I know says they like Albo, but that just could be the circles I mix in. But you insist that he is a likeable bloke, and so people are going to vote him back in. But the flaw in that argument is that the voters didn't love Tony Abbott. He wasn't in the polls a popular figure. He won with a 14-seat landslide. Do you think there's a chance that the Liberals could have a swing coming their way of that size? It might not be enough to get them into government or even into minority government, but it could be a big swing nonetheless.
I doubt it. That's all I can say. I doubt it. I think Anthony is always able, when an election's on, to somehow just zoom up and the moment maketh the man. He just seems to be able to do it every time.
Well, he couldn't do it with The Voice, though, could he? That was effectively an election.
The Voice
that was a
wasn't an
referendum.
election. Hang on, The Voice wasn't an election. It was totally different. I always thought The Voice was a very weird thing to be involved in. And, you know, I wouldn't want to tell you how I voted on it. All I know is that I was never, ever happy with it being raised, ever.
I know how you voted on it because you came on this show, you said you disagreed with The Voice, the PM wasn't happy with you, so you changed your position and you felt like you had to support it for the sake of Labor.
Rubbish.
You definitely said you disagreed with The Voice.
Well,
you said that on this show.
I
Richo, when in doubt, Labor politicians should ring you. Mate, they should ring you when they're in doubt, and that's been the law in this country for 40 years. Bill Hayden should have listened to you in those leadership battles 30-odd years ago, and you were right on The Voice. Albo was completely wrong. And Richo, nothing has done more damage to the Albanese government than The Voice, because he said to the whole country, this is my major priority. And everyone thought, mate, if that's your major priority, you're the wrong man to be Prime Minister of this country at this time.
There's some truth in that. I'd have to agree. I think it was a strange thing to be adopting as such a big deal. If it's not a big deal to the great majority of Australians, it's not a big deal, period. You're not going to change their mind.
Well, it was also the way he went about it, you know, and the way he fought the campaign. I mean, the polling showed that 60% of people kind of agreed with the idea at the beginning, but when the Prime Minister started calling people chicken littles and racists, accusing no supporters of misinformation, he turned anyone who might have even been inclined to support it off it, you know, created a lot of bad will. Just before we go, I want to finish on ambulance wait times. Now, this is a major issue around the country. We've seen new figures today that ambulance wait times in New South Wales for critically ill patients who need urgent care have blown out. This story in the Sydney Morning Herald. The worst areas were the Inner West, Northern Beaches and the Hawkesbury, waiting longer for help than a year ago. But this is the same situation in Queensland, Victoria and South Australia. I mean, my point is, we pay more tax than ever. Governments are getting involved in all sorts of things that they probably don't need to get involved in. The most basic requirement is to deliver healthcare to when someone's about to die, having a heart attack or a stroke or something else, that an ambulance turns up. Gentlemen, why can't governments fulfill the most basic things? Michael Kroger.
Well, it's a very good point. And those areas where the ambulances are free, which is most areas I understand, people are going to emergency wards, and I don't know that those stats in the Herald article prove this, but anecdotally, I tend to think a lot of people are going to emergency wards so they don't have to pay for, seeing a general practitioner where they're not bulk billed. So the out-of-pocket expense is, I think people are not paying it, and they prefer to go to an emergency ward at a hospital by an ambulance. That's what I suspect is happening, because there are too many examples. These numbers have blown out of all proportion with no particular reason.
Richo, I mean, I think it's something a lot of people are worried about, that if you need an ambulance urgently, you know, to be there quickly before you could get to a hospital yourself, that they just won't turn up in time, that you'll lose your life. Is that something that you think's a concern?
I think that people do think that. I think there are far too many who think it. I think all governments have to have another look at healthcare and ambulance times in particular. It's expensive to try and fix the problem, but if you don't fix the problem, it costs actual lives. It has a terrible effect in the community. So you've just got to change your priorities and make sure you do everything possible to fix it.
Yeah, agree. All right. Richo, Michael Kroger, great to see both of you.